Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations, my friends. I'm your host, Linda Joy, publisher of Aspire Magazine, the premier inspirational digital magazine for women since 2006. I'm also Midlife Mojo mentor and intentional living guide for women on the path of self-discovery who are ready to reclaim their inner mojo and co-create the life of their dreams. Well, sometimes in order to co-create, in order to show up in all our glory, we got to heal some stuff. I know I've had to. And we all have these inherited family patterns that are not ours and no longer serve us. Today, Judy Wilkins-Smith, author of Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint, a powerful guide to transformation through disentangling multi-generational patterns, joins me to talk about how to identify our patterns and how we can break through them and more. Judy is a highly regarded organizational, individual, and family patterns expert, a systemic executive coach, trainer, facilitator, thought partner in leadership, conference, and motivational speaker. She has 18 years of expertise in assisting high-performance individuals, Fortune 500 executives, and legacy families to end limiting cycles and reframe challenges into lasting breakthroughs and peak performance. Passionate about visionary leadership and positive accelerated global change, Judy uses her ability to understand critical dynamics in personal and organizational systems and the points in which they intersect in order to create growth and success. As the founder of System Dynamics for Individuals and Organizations, she collaborates with individuals and corporate decision makers to implement innovative whole system design elements, ensuring balance, appetite for excellence, passion, and sustained success. Well, we are going to have a juicy conversation today. Thank you, Judy, for joining me.
Thanks, Linda. It's lovely to be with you.
Well, you know, in your book, Decoding the Emotional Blueprint, you talk about and write about emotional DNA. And I think that's a great place to start. For our listeners, can you give us an overview of what that is and why it's so important?
Sure. So everybody knows they inherit their physical DNA, your blue eyes, your red hair, your long, sparkling lashes, whatever it is, you inherit that. You don't even think about it. But what we don't know or haven't been aware of is that you also inherit your patterns of thoughts, feelings, and actions. And this is what we call your emotional DNA. And it happens when there is an event, and an event creates a reaction. Think about it for yourself. So you have an event that's significant for you. It creates a reaction that generates thoughts, and it generates feelings, and it generates actions to support it. And then when we've done that long enough and we keep repeating the same one, we say, well, that's the truth. Only it's not the truth, it's your truth. And you can change it anytime you want to. And that includes multi-generational patterns of thoughts, feelings, and actions.
That is so powerful. What led you to this work?
You know, I always, pardon the giggle, but every time somebody asks me, it's about as funny as the first time I said it anyway. My father had been killed, not so funny, but I was writing books because it was either write books or go crazy. So I figured that writing books was probably a better idea. And I was writing books and looking for, I was doing research for one of the books, and I stumbled into this and connected with somebody who said, come and learn the work and I'll help you with a book. So I went and studied the work and got zero help with the book. But the upshot was that I started working with people around me, and then they told others and others told others, and before I knew it, they were saying, well, if you can do it for us, can you do it for corporate? So then I started working with corporate and discovering that there were as many emotional DNA patterns in business, of course, as there are in individuals. And then somebody said to me, well, of course you can do this. And I said, why? And they said, you're from South Africa. That's where this originated, which I didn't know. And then I found out it originated with Bert Hellinger and the Zulu tribe, his observation of the Zulu tribe. And what made it even more intriguing was I had been in the healthcare arena. And when I left to move to the US, the person who gave my farewell speech said to me, you may be leaving us, but you'll find a way to represent us in the world. And he was a Zulu gentleman.
That is so powerful. It's like you were being led the whole time.
Yeah, apparently, right?
Exactly. So, you know that people around the world, they're fascinated with the ancestry, and over 100 million family trees have been built on ancestry.com alone, because I believe we innately know there's something important about our heritage. So the question is, can we also research our emotional DNA? And if so, what can we learn from it?
Absolutely. So here's the beautiful thing about emotional DNA. First of all, if you look at ancestry, ancestry is the way that we know about it now is Ancestry 101 or 1.1 or 1.0, whatever we want to call it. This is Genealogy 2.0, because what it does is it says, okay, so now that you know where you belong, let's find out what happened and why that's significant for you. And so we go looking at the events and how those events have created the language that's echoed down through the generations and influences just about every aspect of your life today. Money, relationships, leadership, you name it, it affects you. And it affects you because people have said things or done things that model for us how we think we are in a system. Be careful, don't waste money. Money doesn't grow on trees. Love of money is the root of all evil. By the way, no, it's not. But these are the things that we pick up and make our own. When we begin to see where they came from and how they are shaping us and often limiting us, we are able to then look at that pattern and stop it. And then with one new thought, one new feeling, one new action at a time, we're able to wire new patterns in. So now you're no longer just reliving ancient history. You're actually creating a new current or present and a new future. It is no longer a predictable future. Very important. So this whole system is a system of opening and closing doors. Do I want to repeat that, or do I want to do something different? We don't know it, but once we start to recognize the patterns, we see that we're being given a list of clues by which to either repeat or elevate.
This is so powerful to me because as you were speaking, I was thinking back to the inner work I've done to go from welfare mom, runaway, queen of self-sabotage. I'll be 60 this month. In the first 30 years of my life, it was about living from the labels I had given myself and my family had given me.
Yep.
Which that's the pattern, right?
Of course.
Yeah, I was owning them like, oh, as a former welfare mom, I'll never get my life together. As someone who made financial mistakes in her 20s and 30s, I'll never have abundance. And I see now that back then I was owning the story of my family's labels of me. And it wasn't until I did my inner work that I'm like, I am not my labels. And I don't have to carry that story anymore. I just talked about that. I was a guest on a show. Is it similar to that, right? The removing of labels and seeing yourself as whole.
Well, it's a moving not just of labels, but of a whole system. All of the systemic sentences, the ones that I spoke about, like in relationships. Oh, in our family, men don't stick around, or leadership.
Oh, yeah.
We are all leaders. So what are we telling ourselves? Because what we're telling ourselves actually comes from somewhere in the system. So it's not just that we're telling ourselves, it's that the system has very kindly told us too. And here's the magic of that. We can either repeat what's in the system and it's really helpful if that's good. But if it's limiting us, we can literally change that. And that's powerful. And epigenetics will show you that the imprints from prior generations become the blueprints for generations of behavior. We're undoing those behaviors so that we can live the lives we want, not the ones we think we were saddled with.
Powerful, powerful. And you mentioned epigenetics, which I've heard of. Could you give us a brief description of what that is?
Sure. So we know with epigenetics that a significant event, and that's when we say significant, it's significant for you. But a significant event with enough impact on you, emotional impact, will create an imprint on the system. And that gets passed on down through the system so that you either activate or deactivate genetic markers. So they've done studies on this for 9/11, where mothers who had PTSD or who were carrying babies at the time, and had PTSD markers, their children were also checked and they too had elevated markers. You see it in the Great Dutch Hunger Winter, where they've followed a particular population for 4 generations. And all 4 of those are showing physical manifestations of the genetic markers and imprints that were laid down.
Powerful, powerful. So it sounds like this is like a field of specialty that you could really just dive into. Is that part of your work, epigenetics? Is that part of what you dive into to help your clients or corporations?
What we look at or look for is the patterns and the events. Now, sometimes you may not know what the originating event is, or you may not even have the history, in which case we tell you to timeline your own life. But absolutely, yes, if we have that information, we're looking at where it came from. What might have been the originating event? What was the language? What were the thoughts? What were the feelings? What were the actions? What were the outcomes? What were the effects? If you look at something like the pandemic that we've just been through or are currently in, there are things that are already coming out from that. Don't waste. There's not enough food. There's not enough work. We've now switched, and that was really a very big switch and a powerfully good switch. We don't have to all go into the office anymore. Home is perfectly fine. We've created home office. So all we did there was, oh dear, we can't go into work. I'm stuck. Oh, I will never be fine. Like you said earlier, I'll never be okay again. Or, I cannot go into work. I'm going to have to learn technology. Listen to the 2 different pieces. The one says you're limited. The other one goes, oh, you're about to get cleverer than you thought.
I love it. So it's really a reframing. And Judy, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to ask you what systemic work is. And we'll be back in a moment. I am with Judy Wilkins-Smith. You can learn more at judywilkins-smith.com. We'll be right back.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM radio network.
Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Hey America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back, my friend. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. With me is Judy Wilkins-Smith, author of Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint. So, give our listeners and myself an overview of what systemic work is.
Okay, so systemic work is the study of you within your family system. And at work, it would be the study of you within your professional system. You didn't just happen in a vacuum. You came from somewhere. And in fact, you came from a long line of somewheres. And it's how have those somewheres and events and thoughts, feelings, actions, how have they affected you? How has it made you who you are? And then, who would you like to become? Because even though we inherit the emotional DNA, one of the most powerful aspects of that is that it is also ours to change. And when we change our emotional DNA, we change that for ourselves and for those going forwards. And we change a little bit our interpretation of history going backwards.
That's so powerful. When you go into, are you doing mostly corporate and leadership, or are you doing families and individuals also, or is it a combination of both?
So I do a lot of leadership in corporate, and I do individuals, and then I do live events. So live events are important and growing. And what we do in the live event is a thing called constellations, which means you bring the issue that you want to look at, and then we dimensionalize it. So that sounds like a mouthful. What does that mean? It means that instead of you trying to work everything out in your head, what we do is we put you into groups, and then we ask who has an issue, and the issue is voice. And then we'll listen to the issue and do a history or an intake. And from that, we can identify what the parts are of this issue that you need to explore. And then we choose live representatives for each part of that issue. Now, the beauty of that is that we ask the client to give us a picture of what that's like for them. In other words, can you give us a spatial representation of your issue? Where does mom go? Where does dad go? Where would you be standing? Where would your sibling be standing? And just from that, people begin to move. Clients begin to gain insights. Because for the first time, they're not just thinking about it, they're seeing it. They're talking about it. They're hearing it, and they're hearing the interactions. They're watching the movement of those representatives, and they're able to walk in the issue. So it's really like tackling your issue in 3D. And so what happens is, as they see it, the insights begin. And now what happens is the mind or the brain begins rewiring, and so does the body. And you can watch them shift. There's a visceral shift quite often. And what has taken people 20 years sometimes to not be able to address, they can often address powerfully within the space of about an hour or an hour and a half. And because they've seen it, heard it, felt it, spoken it, it becomes an embodied experience that becomes that aha experience that we often talk about. And you will see people come to me often and say, I can't think the same way. I don't feel the same way. All of those years, that's the thing I hear the most often, all those years of struggle, and suddenly I don't have that in me. You've just begun rewiring and reframing.
I was trying to feel it in my body as you were describing the process that your live attendees go through. And it's like writing a new script on an emotional, spiritual, physical, emotional level. It's
Exactly
like a
right. Exactly right. It's multi-levels. And when they look at when they get to see that it wasn't that mom didn't love me, she was preoccupied because something had happened, and so was her mother, and so was her mother's mother, we begin to realize that, oh my goodness, there's a pattern, and I'm the change agent. So what do I need to do to change this so it doesn't become my inheritance too? I'm actually a co-creator in change.
I just love the energy of that. That is so beautiful. And how often do you offer your live events? How many times a year on average?
On average, I offer 4 live events, although that will probably start changing because they're beginning to be more widely attended. So I offer 4. Now there are a couple of ways you can attend those. One is simply I want to come and do my inner work and I want to shift something. Number 2 is I want to come and learn this work, in which case people attend all 4, and that includes one like I'm doing now in November down at Disney World. It's a live event at Disney World. And so they do all 4 of those, and that carries certification.
Wow, that's powerful. And you talk about do it yourself, DIY constellations, I should say. What is DIY constellations?
Yeah, so a DIY constellation was one of the reasons I wrote the book, because people were saying to me, we can't always get to you, but we want to do this work. Can we begin to help ourselves? And so what I did was I showed them in the book what to do. If you are stuck between 2 choices, literally take 2 pieces of paper, put down the 2 choices, each one on its own piece of paper, place them at opposite ends of the room, stand in the middle, walk to the first one, and notice what you're telling yourself and how you're feeling. Then come back, turn around, and do the same with the other one. And once you can actually see what you're trying to choose between, and now you're feeling it because you're walking between the 2 and you're listening to what you tell yourself, choices become very much easier. Likewise, if you're stuck with a pattern, if you set it out on the floor using paper, the way that it is for you, with a piece of paper for each part of that issue and a little arrow so that it becomes directional, now you can begin to see the pattern that has you stuck or the pattern that's trying to empower you.
This is powerful. For me, I'm a visual person.
Right.
That's how I process. So as you're describing putting the pieces of papers or the arrows, I'm like, I could see how powerful that would be, because that means I'm there in that moment with that issue and rewriting the story.
Exactly. And you're now not trying to just do it in a headspace. You're incorporating multiple senses. And when we do that, we can make more informed decisions. So what I get people to also learn is that your gut is your compass. If you're feeling uncomfortable, it's telling you something is off or something is off in the system. When you feel really good and inspired and your gut is happy and singing, you know this compass is telling you this is a good thing for you. And then, of course, so we have the head, heart, and gut. So when the gut is relaxed and the heart is open, the minute the heart opens, the frontal cortex goes to work, and it goes, oh boy, what can we find here? And the imagination switches on. It's never that we have a closed mind, it's that we close our hearts. When we get a fright, our hearts close. When we're sad, our hearts close. But the minute we open our hearts and the brain can switch on, the gut's going, okay, am I fleeing or is this freeing for me? Which one are we doing here? So it's listening very carefully. When your head, your heart, and your gut all say yes, you begin to get into a state of alignment or coherence. And that's when things begin to shift. And I will add to that, whenever you're doing this work, just doing it as a brain exercise will help you, but it's not going to get you all the way there. You want to take an elevated emotion with you. So gratitude, excitement, expectation, a sense of possibility. Because when you do, it means you invest more heavily in what it is that you're trying to achieve than what's got you stuck. So it moves you past all of your limiting beliefs and excuses.
Powerful, powerful work you are doing in the world, my friend. And I want to give the name of the book again. It's Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint, a powerful guide to transformation through disentangling multi-generational patterns. Learn more at judywilkins-smith.com. Judy, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk about some of the ways we can best identify the inherited family patterns that are not ours. We'll be back in a moment, my friends.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM radio network.
Are you feeling called to clear your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual blockages? That's your soul and environment speaking to you and asking you to uncover all the clutter that is preventing you from living the life you envision. Felicia Messina DeHady, soul coaching master practitioner and trainer and teacher of advanced interior alignment and medicine wheel feng shui, supports her international clientele by creating inner and outer transformation in their environments and their lives by combining elements from her extensive training, experience, and intuition. Felicia is a master intuitive coach, certified by Colette Barron-Reed, and has served as a master mentor for Denise Linn's Elemental Space Clearing certification course, as well as her Ultimate Clutter Clearing. Explore her offerings, including certification courses in Feng Shui, space clearing, soul coaching, and Reiki at FeliciaDeHady.com.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Hailing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Hailing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM radio network.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Thanks for circling up with us today. With me is Judy Wilkins-Smith, author of Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint. So what are some of the ways that we can best identify those inherited family patterns that are not ours and are no longer serving us?
Sure. So you want to notice where you get really, really irritated or stuck, or where you say to yourself, this doesn't feel like me. I don't know why I'm stuck here. Chances are it's not your stuckness, but you're eating somebody else's pizza from another generation, which, by the way, is really not pleasant. So what you want to do is look for the places you're stuck, look for the places that irritate you, look for the brick walls you hit continually. They're telling you this is a pattern and it's probably not yours. I also listen for people to say things like, I've been sad for as long as I remember, or I've been angry for as long as I can remember. If that's the case, you pulled it in from another generation. And the beauty of it is you pulled it in because you were going to turn it into a strength. So let's go there.
So isn't it such a deeper, empowering way of looking at things? Because we can go into the story of, oh, I've been carrying this forever, and think that it means we have to carry it for the rest of our lives.
Exactly. And when you look at it and go, okay, so what can I do with this? What's possible here? That's when the game begins to change. Because when you ask what's possible and you don't sit in all of those thoughts, feelings, and actions that you've had for years, you begin to then have a different thought and a different feeling. And maybe you take one different action and you go, oh, I didn't die. Okay, let's do this again. Let's have another new thought and another new feeling and another new action. And what you start to do is build a winner effect. You start to teach yourself how it is when it's not this struggling way. And you teach your brain what it needs to teach your body. Because here's the thing. Your brain has to tell your body a compelling enough story that the body buys for it to become the truth. Now, that sounds really difficult. It's not. Think of all the days that when you've said to yourself, I'm useless, I'm stupid, and the body goes, that's right, here we go. Feel terrible in my gut. I'm so unhappy. Your brain is telling your body a story and you're going, yep. So all you've got to do is the opposite. Tell your brain a story that it can tell your body that is compelling enough, that excites you so much that you cannot wait to get up in the morning. That's how you shift.
Powerful, powerful, my friend. And for those who are just starting to want to dive deeper, can you give some examples of the ways our unconscious patterning are really impacting our relationships, money, health, and really every area of our life?
Absolutely. So I'm going to start with money because I know it's a really popular one. So I have people who come to me often and they say, look, I want to be much wealthier than I am now. And I go, okay. So tell me your thoughts about money. Oh, those greedy, wealthy people. They lie, they cheat, they steal. It's terrible. They only get there because they cheated. And I go, okay, so really what you're telling me is you want to become a liar, a thief, and a cheat. And they go, well, no. So I said, but if you hold those thoughts, how can you ever become wealthy? Because you're demonizing it before you've even started. So you're quietly going to self-sabotage. Anytime you get it, you're going to go, oh, no, this is wrong. It's greedy. Probably I should give it away, or let me see how I can lose it. So we quietly sabotage that. Or you look at the love of your life and you go, I cannot wait to marry this person or be with this person, whatever it is. And then you go, yeah, no, never mind. I know in my family what that looks like. You think you love them and then they walk away and you're left with, never mind. So now you've just killed the most beautiful relationship because of the family pattern. Or as a leader, your father says, I had one person who came in and said to me, I'm in a panic. And I said, okay, what's going on? Well, I'm about to be promoted to a colonel. And I went, okay. So we're panicking because you're getting promoted. Yes, this is a bad thing. And I said, okay, you need to explain. And he said, my father was a major, my grandfather was a major, my great-grandfather was a major. Why do they want to promote me to colonel? I said to him, well, maybe in their time that was the equivalent. I don't know, but why is this so bad? Well, because my great-grandfather said being a major was good enough for everybody, and we live by that. And boy, was he living by that. So we keep ourselves entangled with the things that we've been told are right and allow us to belong in our systems. And yet when we challenge them, we often look at it and go, what was I thinking?
Wow, that is a powerful story that even though it was an, I'll say, elevation of a title, his pattern was so ingrained that it made him so uncomfortable on a soul level.
Absolutely. No, we don't do that. Yeah.
Wow. That's a great example of an ingrained pattern. And it makes me, like I'm sitting here going, I wonder, what mine are. So, and do you believe that we all have unconscious ingrained patterns? It's just part of this human existence?
Yes, we do. We all have them. How do you think you got to feel the way you do about love, life, leadership, money? It came from somewhere. You didn't just manufacture it out of nothing. And if you do something different, it's because you've looked at those patterns and gone, yeah, no, this is not working for me. And that's when you become the change agent. But yep, you are who you are in collusion with or in response to patterns around you.
Powerful. I'm sitting here thinking like, because I've done so much healing over the last 30 years. And so I'm thinking of it in this container, and I'm like, I found through my own work, and I'm curious to hear your insights, without meaning to, I only focused on my healing. There was a ripple effect in my family.
Of course
A
there
big
was.
one that was like, wow, if Linda can heal and forgive that. And I noticed the healing and the ripple effect. Speak to that, because sometimes we worry that if we change or work on ourselves, that I think we're afraid of the ripple effect. In my case, I believe it was a positive ripple effect, but I didn't know that would happen. I just focused on healing.
And that was the smart thing to do, by the way. Yes, the minute that you begin to change, the system can no longer relate to you the same way. And so it adjusts. And I have many people who will say to me, I'm doing my work, but I'm telling you now, my family will never accept this or change. And about a year later, I see them and their family. And the family's going, well, I don't know what she's eating, but we want it too. It's really you doing your work that begins to swing the system. The minute, so here's the other piece that's super important. In systemic work, we know that anytime you create an exclusion, that creates a ripple effect. So we have great-grandmother who was institutionalized and nobody ever spoke about her again. Now, all of a sudden, 4 generations later, we have somebody who's very ill and stuck in their room and they feel like they have no control over their life, and we don't speak about them either. Why? This person is repeating the exclusion in an attempt to bring it to the light in the system. So anytime you exclude anything or anybody in your system, it's going to show up in a later generation until it is seen, re-membered, and given its place. And that exclusion is also often what begins the pattern in the family. It's something that's not completed, a conversation, an event, something that happened to someone that you know. It creates that ripple effect in a not so healthy way. When you look at it and you see and you acknowledge and you give place and then you do it differently, you've restored the flow that was cut off.
That's how it feels. That's, I'm looking back and thinking about the words that you're using. That's what it was like. Things began to flow in the family again because people were not discussing the past and the traumas because of their own stories and fears. And I just knew that if I didn't face them and dive deep and heal them, that it would destroy me. And I had to focus on me. And as I call it coming into the light, because I was in, depression, anxiety, and all that. As I came to the light, it's almost like this beam spread through my family. I'm not saying it was instant, but I noticed their choices were different. And now it's on the next generation. I have 25 and 30-year-old nieces who are like, Auntie, they're following everything that I put out because it's love and positivity, which in healing information, which is helping them make sure they don't go in the same family patterns.
Of course. And so what you've done is you very neatly brought it to light, and they've had a look and gone, well, we're not doing that. We'll do it differently. Now, you also said there were lots of things that people didn't speak about, and this is common in families, and it's what gets us stuck because it creates those patterns of things trying to show up so that they can be seen and resolved. And there's a beautiful Disney movie called Encanto. And in Encanto, they have a song called We Don't Talk About Bruno. Well, if you watch the movie, you'll see that's code for just about everything in our lives that we don't talk about. And when we don't talk about it, that little pesky thing will keep showing up until we resolve it or complete it.
Yeah, I can remember that. I'll call it Bruno for that sake. Inside me, I was spending so much energy for decades holding that thing down, right? That thing that I didn't want to talk about, uncover, etc. That one day, kind of like when you hold a giant beach ball underwater and
right,
you can't hold it anymore. And when you let it go, it pops up into the air. When I finally said, oh my God, it's taken me so much life force energy to not face this? What do I have to lose to shine some light on this? And that beach ball thing popped in my mind back then. And I just said, I have nothing to lose because this is costing me too much now.
Absolutely. And also, of course, you've got to remember that we are raised to suffer. We have two languages. One is success, the other one is suffering. But if you look at the major religions and most of us, we are taught to suffer. It's good to be humble, but we don't have a darn clue that humble doesn't mean you go hiding under a bush. We're taught that we should be small and we shouldn't ask for much. And it's the most backward thing, because what we do is we stifle the system. When we start saying yes, please, to success and abundance and love and fun and life, everything lightens up and everything opens up. We just haven't realized yet that the great sleep that we're in as humanity is because we think we need to suffer and that it's really, really cool to be a victim.
Yeah. Boy, you're hitting the nail on the head for me, my friend. We're going to take our final break, Judy. When we come back in the last segment, I'd love to talk about, once we identify the patterns, what are some ways we can start to break through them? And I also want to see if we have time in the last segment to also talk about resilience DNA. That's one of my favorite words. So we'll be back in a moment. I'm with Judy Wilkins-Smith, author of Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint. Please visit judywilkins-smith.com and grab a copy of her new book. Learn more about her sacred services she brings to the world. We'll be right back, my friends.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Are you ready to create and live the divinely guided life intended for you? A life not bound by your past or tied to a specific future. A life beyond your fears and what-ifs that is filled with limitless possibilities. Experiencing an empowered life of fulfillment, joy, and connection is possible when you embrace a spiritual, solutions-centered lifestyle. Through her transformational teachings and programs, Lisa Hermata, empowered Life View Guide, life transformation mentor, and founder of Love is the Seed, empowers women to break the barriers holding them back from living their sacred truth, so they can find greater connection with their inner wisdom and their divine source to co-create a life that brings peace, joy, and self-acceptance. Visit loveistheseed.com for positive guidance and valuable resources to support you in embracing an empowered life view.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Judy Wilkins-Smith. And right before the break, we were talking about some of the ways our unconscious patterns impact our relationships, money, health, and more. And I am so loving this conversation, Judy. So for our listeners, once we identify those patterns, what do you recommend on how we can learn to break through them?
You know, one of the best ways to break through it is to say to yourself, so what wants to stop? What do I need to stop here? And then what do I need to start? What is it that my heart deeply desires? And when you can do that, you will see those are the two pillars of this work. What's trying to stop? The multi-generational pattern. What's trying to start? The new chapter that only you can write. So what you do is you sit down and you look at, okay, what do I tell myself about relationships? What do I think? What do I feel? What actions do I take? Which of these need to stop? When did it start for me, and what was happening in my life at the time? And does that happen to anyone else in my family? In which case it may be a multi-generational pattern. When you've got that written down, you want to give yourself a minute, and then you want to sit down, take a nice deep breath and go, now what do I really want? What would I really like? And then you write down again your thoughts, your feelings, your actions around this particular subject. And typically what you'll see is that the pattern that wants to stop is sitting right next to the pattern that wants to start. The pattern that wants to stop is the wisdom or the source of information. The pattern that's trying to start is the next chapter that takes you to the life that you want.
I love it. Two basic questions, but powerful, aren't they? So
Basic
powerful.
questions. And then saying to yourself, right, what is one new thought that I can have that hasn't been in the system? What is one new feeling that they haven't felt? What is one new action I can take that nobody else has thought to take? And boom, off you go.
Yeah, because the questions to me, they're so crystal clear and simple that just the response to them moves you forward in a new direction.
Exactly. The minute you start responding, your body's going, okay, we're not in Kansas anymore. Things are moving here. Which direction do we want to go to? Now, if you can couple your direction to a clear goal, that's going to be very helpful, because when that clear goal is exciting enough, it pulls you past all of the excuses and the limitations that generally keep you stuck, and you will find a way to make that happen.
So you have the questions, my friends. What do I need to stop? And what do I need to start? So thank you for sharing that, Judy. Now, you were written about resilience DNA. As soon as I saw that phrase, I was like, ooh, I have to ask her about this. So could we speak about that? Because with everything the world's gone through, we've gone through collectively and individually over the last few years, that word's used a lot, but I'm curious about resilience DNA.
Yeah, so resilience DNA I talk about, and in fact, it's interesting because that's what I'm teaching at Disney World this year, capability and resilience DNA. And resilience DNA is, what do you do when you get really stuck? What is your go-to? Where is your figure it out gene? How do you activate that? Because we all have it. It's just that sometimes we're not aware of it. And when we start to identify it and wire it in consciously, that's when we get to use that every time somebody says, well, you can't do that. Or you look at that and you go, oh, this is impossible. When you wire that in and it's your go-to, it turns you around and says, excuse me, we're not taking that as an excuse, let's go. So resilience DNA is there for all of us. And even it might be slightly flat for you. It might be that it hasn't had a lot of attention. But if you look, it often starts as what we call a survival mechanism or a coping mechanism. But you can develop it into a powerful strength that helps you to keep moving forward in the direction of your goals and purpose.
Powerful. And what are some of the benefits of doing all of this work? I read was learning to make the invisible visible, right? So is that in regard to those patterns that we were talking about in identifying the family stories?
Yes, you're literally, when you dimensionalize it and do that constellation with pieces of paper, you're literally making the invisible visible, because you'll start to look at that and go, oh, hold on, my mom does that. Come to think of it, so does my grandmother. Oh my goodness. So it starts to highlight it. It also makes the unconscious conscious. People are not aware of the wealth of knowledge that they do have. When I start to ask questions, they'll go, well, yeah, no, there was nothing here. And then I ask a bit more and they go, oh, wait a minute. And suddenly it jiggles it and up it comes. So we're making that unconscious conscious too. It's something that we really haven't done much before, or not consciously, but it's something that's becoming more and more important, because when it's both visible and conscious, now you have a vehicle you can use to get you where you want to be.
So powerful. In your work, you say that when you identify the gifts that are often hidden within the pain and messiness of a family, right, or other systems, some people might go, gifts? What do you mean, gift?
Oh, yeah, there is always a gift. There is never not a gift. We just haven't been taught that there is always a gift. There really is. Somebody said to me, well, that's fine. Your father was killed. Find the gift in that. And I said, it's a difficult one, and here's the deal. Had my father not have died, I probably would have been very content to be at home mom, not doing anything different. I mean, I'd come out of the healthcare arena. I was more than happy to be at home mom in a new country, doing my mom thing, which I would have loved. I certainly wouldn't have had the career I have now. I didn't have an option. It was, you better get out there because otherwise we're going to all be in trouble. And so I had to make things happen. And it was difficult, and it did not feel like a very particularly pretty wrapping or container for a gift. But when I look at it, I'm very aware that, okay, so he died and he still gave me a gift. There was still a gift in that.
Yeah, and look at the ripple effect that gift
has
given to the world, right? Like even this conversation, you're creating a ripple effect of transformation and healing for those who are listening and step onto the journey. So when you look back, like you, I look back at those times that I thought were mistakes in my life, whether it was trauma or shame or whatever it was for the decisions I made in my 20s and 30s. I look back now and people are shocked. I'm like, I wouldn't change one thing, because those things, now that I've gone through the healing in looking at each one, they made me who I am today, which led
Of course they did.
Yeah, they actually led me to start right in the midst. I was still healing 17 years ago when I started Aspire magazine. I did it with no publishing background, no experience. I just had a deep desire to publish a magazine that spoke to women, not at them. Like, you don't see do 10 leg lifts to reduce cellulite. It's all about living from the inside out. Now, why did that happen? I believe it was part of my healing, and that was my gift through the healing, is to create a gift for other women. And here we are now. I got a book publishing company, a radio show. All my media brands came out of my darkness.
Of course. And so this is a really important thing for your listeners to understand. We think that a journey that's sacred and amazing looks like A. It doesn't. It's shaped with every step that you take. But here's the piece. Are you going to love the journey or loathe the journey? Because it will take you in whichever direction you decide. If you love the journey and you couple it to that deep desire, you're going to land in a lovely place. If you loathe the journey, you will get to the end of your life and go, what a horrible life this was. And it's all because of the choices that you made about the gifts that you were given.
Yes, my friend. I feel so blessed. And I'll end it, because we're coming to a close, but I'll end it with saying this for those who may be in a tough, dark time. Hold on. Grab a copy of Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint, because even in my darkest days, there was something deep, deep, deep inside me, which I now see as my inner wisdom, my soul, that kept whispering to me, just hold on, just hold on. So for those who are struggling right now, I want to say, just hold on, because on the other side of darkness, there is light, because without darkness and light can't not exist with each other. So you are going to make it through this. Reach out a hand to someone that can support you on your journey. Learn more about the work Judy's doing in the world at judywilkins-smith.com. Through my darkest times came my gifts. And I feel so full circle at turning 60 this month, that those gifts are touching other people's lives. It's such a deep sense of purpose, as I'm sure you feel sometimes too, Judy.
I guess I think I'm just on a big adventure. if it's a purpose, it's really to say to people, you're literally never stuck. You may think you are, but you're not. And I love what you said about hold on, because I'm sure you're very aware of The Rock, the actor.
Oh, yes.
When he was about 19, if I have it correctly, he had a romantic breakup, and it sent him into a very dark place where he almost decided that was it. Now imagine if he had. If you look at Walt went through some horrific times, and yet he held on. And if Walt Disney hadn't have held on, look at what we wouldn't have. So you don't know what you have that the world is waiting for. You just got to keep doing it.
What a beautiful message to close our time with. Hold on, my friends, hold on. And Judy, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so glad that our paths have crossed and I can share your message with my audience.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
And everyone, I want to invite you to visit judywilkins-smith.com. Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.